So good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the day 2 of CDOIQ. I am Professor Vivek. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Information Technology and Operations Management in the Business School. And today I'm going to be your track chair. So our first speaker for today is Professor Christine Legner from University of Lausanne, a beautiful place in Switzerland. And she happens to be one of the colleague of my co-author. So a warm welcome to you, Christine. She's going to talk about an extremely important subject now, that data democratization and learning from born digital and incumbent firms. So welcome, Christine. The floor is yours. Okay. And looking forward to your talk. And please join me in welcoming our first speaker.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure and honor also to be speaking here at the CDOIQ APAC Symposium as European and also providing some insights into European type of research, but basically at an international level. So I have one slide to give you a little bit of background about myself. Basically, I'm a professor at information systems at University of Lausanne in Switzerland. I'm working on data for many years, and I do that in the Competence Center Corporate Data Quality. And this is something actually quite unique. We are a community of Fortune 500 companies, 20 large multinationals, including well-known names like Siemens, like Bosch, like Nestle, like AstraZeneca, for instance. So different industries. And actually founded in 2006 means that data management is not a topic of today, but it has been there for a long time. And we're very happy actually that over this long time, we have industry sponsors, but it's not only sponsors, it's really collaborators. So we have these industry research collaboration. And one of the outcomes, I just picked it here, is the so-called data excellence model. So it's a kind of guideline to guide companies actually in managing data, coming from strategic goals, working on enablers like architecture, like roles, responsibilities, but also KPIs or data lifecycle, for instance, and then producing the results that you would like to have with excellent data, contributing to your business goals and achieving business value. So this is very briefly also the research context in which this study has been conducting. And on the other hand, I'm the co-chair of the European CDOIQ Symposium. And you see here a very nice photo of the city of Lausanne. Basically, and the mountains, that's France in the background, and the Lake of Geneva in between. That's basically where our campus is located. So if you want to travel to Europe, don't miss Lausanne. And obviously, you're more than welcome also to the CDOIQ Symposium on 14th of September this year. With that in mind, let us very quickly look a little bit, where do we stand in 2023 with analytics and data. And we have had some discussions yesterday, and I think they all confirm that we are in a situation where it's not about motivating the use of analytics and AI. Many companies achieve returns on their data and AI investments. They increase their investments, but they struggle with a couple of fundamental topics. And many of them are more on the cultural side or on the people side. So in this study from New Vantage partner that has been executed for a long time, for many years, you have comparative data, so it's quite interesting. But you still see that only about 20% of the companies report that they have a data-driven culture, they have a data-driven organization, or manage business data as a business asset. So it's about people. And the quote that we see below is from Tom Redman: regular people, those without data in their titles, are the most important component in any data project or program. So these are the people who will use the results, who contribute to the use cases. So that's really where the struggle is. So when we discussed these topics with companies from more traditional industries, and we we typically work with companies from pharmaceutical industry, manufacturing, automotive, retail, consumer goods. So many different industries, but yet they always say, yes, that's our legacy because we are traditional companies. We are not digital born. We have these issues with data because it's not in our DNA. And this actually kicked off our research on data democratization. And what you see here is when we went back to the big names like Airbnb, like Uber, like Netflix, we realized that they have the same problems. So I specifically like the quote from Airbnb, and perhaps you have read about it, where they say it wouldn't be possible to have a data scientist in every room because we want to basically inform every decision with data. So we need to somehow work on the skill set. Also at Uber, so you can see there have been large initiatives to democratize data, and they continue to work on that because they are a technology company that creates innovations that help improve transportation. And then lastly, also Netflix is very interesting. They have even data as part of the values that new employees should actually bring with. But all of these companies have significant data democratization initiatives, so large scale initiatives. And our research question was, what do we actually learn from them? What can we learn from them? And we did not only look at the digital natives, but we also looked at incumbent firms. So of course, what the companies in our consortium did. So we have a sample where we can compare the traditional companies to the digital born ones. I will, however, mostly focus a little bit on the digital natives because they're more explicit, they communicate more also about what they do, and it's very interesting. So data to the people is actually the title of the talk, and we somehow came up with a little bit of a provocative slide here where we say, okay, in fact, in many companies, we have something like a data aristocracy, and perhaps that's a European perspective, and but where you have a data elite, so some people who are skilled, who have access to data, who are also have data in their job titles, and they have more or less the privileges and also the knowledge to work with data. And what we would actually like to do is we would like to empower every employee, every data citizen to work with data, of course, with the support of this data elite or this data teams, however you want to call them. So, but how do we actually do that? What are the mechanisms to do so is the interesting question. And we came up actually after discussions and also looking a little bit into literature with this definition of data democratization. So it's a kind of capability that a company needs to build to empower a wider range of employees, not just the experts, to understand, find, access, and share data. And actually, there's an addition that came from our more traditional companies in a secure and compliant way. So because oftentimes, if you look just at the examples in the web space or around digital giants, you oftentimes have the more open data perhaps available. But if you're a manufacturing company, if you're pharmaceutical companies, you also care about obviously compliance with a lot of regulations and also security aspects, obviously, perhaps in a different way. But this should apply to everybody, of course, who deals with private, personal sensitive data and so on. So that's a little bit the field. So how do we actually come from some situation where data is in the hands of few to a situation where data is in the hands of everybody, and everybody can do what he or she would actually like to do with it. So we have actually this looks a little bit different than in terms of the color coding than on my slide, but okay. We have 5 pillars of a data democracy that we derived, and I will come back to them later, but just that you keep in mind. So there are 5 different themes that companies work on in order to build a data democracy. And that starts from broadened data access. It includes self-services to stimulate data use. It is about leveling up data literacy, creating communities, and promoting data value. So we're coming back to those. Let us start with Airbnb, which is a very interesting case. And many of these resources that I'm referring to are open. So there are a lot of videos also that you can use to actually be inspired. But Airbnb's challenge, I don't want to explain you, but you know, it's a fast, or has been a fast growing company that has been actually becoming the largest hotel company in the world, but without owning any hotel rooms, of course. And but at the same time, they had the issue that they were growing fast and they needed to empower a lot of people all over the world to actually use data to create all the different services that you see on the platform, to onboard also the different partners that provide their rooms on Airbnb and the like. So what they actually came up with in terms of addressing data analytics democratization is they had the vision. So similar to what we have been seeing, every employee should be empowered to make data-informed decisions, but we have to get rid of this tribal knowledge. So knowledge that is only in certain tribes, because there are some people around it. There, we know in every data organization, there are people with a lot of knowledge that you always ask if you have specific problems. And they wanted to get rid of that. And they have this activities in 3 areas. So data access, the different tools, and education. Let me come a little bit closer to that. So broaden data access. What they did, actually, they created a data portal so that any employee could find data that would and would also be empowered to explore, discover, and trust that data. And the means is the data portal that Airbnb put in place. And it's actually a very interesting way also of depicting data, not only cataloging it as you know it from normal catalogs, but it's a graph where the entire ecosystem is presented. So it's not only the resources, so the tables or dashboards or reports, but actually that's connected to consumption. So who would actually use them, to production, who would produce this data, associations also, if I have this indicator, how does it relate to another one? And really taking a graph-based approach that would allow you to search and to very nicely actually also find the associated resources and enter the graph from different areas, or from the team, from employees, from a context or metadata, or just searching. So very interesting example of something that a lot of companies try to do with data catalogs or similar activities. A second aspect is what is called basically how can you stimulate the use of analytics and how can you also scale that. And Airbnb uses something that is called knowledge repo, and it's basically the idea that you replicate, or that everybody who basically sees a report or something interested can use that, but also understand it. So you have an entire let's say, knowledge base, basically with different analytics use cases, with dashboards, with KPIs that would be not only documented, but with the source and with explanations around it. So very close to what you also see in many companies happening these days, that you try to capture your use cases, your analytics use cases, make them available to the broader community of data scientists in different locations so that they can actually do the same thing and they do not reinvent the wheel, but you somehow create new and build on what has been already done, or connect also the dots. Last example from Airbnb, also very important. So of course, you have to skill a lot of people. And how do you do that? You do it by not having one training curriculum for everybody, but through segmenting your audience. So here you see 3 personas. So Daphne Data, the technical data power experts. You have a manager, Mel here, that is less data literate, but obviously should take decisions based on data. And you have Nathan New, who is a new employee joining the company. And with that in mind, they created curricula that would basically be adapted to this different target groups. to create data awareness at the very beginning, but also to, in level 2, for instance, to collect data or help them collect data, visualize data, and then at a superior level to use data at scale with analytics or advanced analytics. And this is also a common theme that we see in many data democratization initiatives, that you try to segment into 3-4 groups and thereby actually create programs, that data literacy programs, training curricula that oftentimes combine also the existing workforce, but also content from universities, from all the different online resources that you have from LinkedIn Learning, from Coursera and the like. Uber actually is very similar cases, and I'm just probably have to also rush a little bit. Also fast growing company, rapid growth also is growing problems with data, because new people are onboarded, they are keen on working with data, but collaboration oftentimes is difficult. It's difficult to find the knowledge people, also to get access to the data takes a lot of time. And what they did, basically, they realized that just maintaining metadata was not enough to actually digest and work with the trillions of Kafka messages they had per day in the landscape and the complexity. And here, same pattern. They also segmented their audience. Here it's Reliant Rebecca, it's monitoring Matt, analyst Anna, and inventor Evan. So you see a little bit like slightly different, but still same theme. You somehow try to understand what are their data skills, how would they do data, use data in their life, in their daily life, and how can you actually help them empower through the tools and the like. And they also came up with a data book on the one hand side, which is more the metadata side. And on the other hand, they defined a data science workbench, or created a data science workbench where they centralize a lot of resources that can be used, different tools. I think I have them here also, that would actually help everybody get onboarded. It may include Jupyter notebooks. It includes the different tools that you need to analyze data, so that everybody can be fast and efficient in being onboarded. Here, an interesting number of criteria they use. So what they say is, okay, you build for the experts, so you basically have the full stack, but you design for the less technical people so that they can actually use that. They don't stop at building what's known, but just also plan that there will be new ways, new use cases actually. So you build for also looking into the unknown. So it's not just you build a data warehouse for everything that is basically reports, but you really try to be prepared for the future and have a kind of environment that allows you to plug in new tools so that all your team and the overall knowledge in the company can be developed. And then there's a very important aspect here. This data practices and the methods and tools, they are new to most companies, so they need to develop. And you can only do that in a collaborative effort. So with data communities that combine data scientists, but also the regular people, or the ones who are the data champions, perhaps. So it's really a community topic. And that's a common theme in not only at Uber, it's also in other, in Airbnb you see it, in also our traditional companies. We can only master data democratization by really fostering collaboration and actually creating data mindset through aggregating all the experience of many people that come with different backgrounds. And you see here also an example, for instance, Netflix, as mentioned earlier, they have really also among the values of their companies that basically you should be ready to use data every day to make informed decisions. So it's for the newcomers, for the new joiners in the onboarding, very clear, we expect that from you. Okay, so these were the 5 pillars of data democratization that I tried to explain you based on a number of examples. So first one, broaden data access. So data oftentimes is in silos and not accessible for regular employees. And data catalogs or these new types of graph-based ways of searching for data may make data more accessible for everybody. And you see that in a lot of these data democratization initiatives, be it in the traditional companies or in the digital born ones. Then stimulation of data use with self-services. Here it's really about the bottlenecks that also concepts like the data mesh actually propagate. So if we rely on data or IT specialists to do all the work, we will not be scaling. And self-service tools like the data science workbenches that we have been seeing basically provide these, or the knowledge repo or the data science workbench, they provide this. Then literacy, as meant, employees are not data literate by default, but it's not worthwhile providing the same training for everybody. So segment your audience into personas or role families and combine foundational courses that you can get perhaps everywhere with situated learning in your organization, and also coaching, for instance, peer-to-peer training, so new training methods. Creating data communities, as data practices are underdeveloped today. Employees oftentimes feel isolated if they work with data, at least in the European large organizations. Sometimes if you have a data scientist or data person working in a, I don't know, production facility with on some predictive maintenance, they feel isolated. So try to create these communities and also shape the data practices around those. And we see many examples around communities that are built around tools, around different topics that actually make it possible to scale also and to create this common data practice knowledge. Promote data value, last but not least. There is one very important communication task, and that is basically important to raise awareness, to change also, and data ambassadors at every level are very important in that endeavor. And if you ask me, last but not least, what is the difference between incumbents and the traditional companies, that's the same slide, but I just wanted to mention, so typically incumbent, the more traditional companies are a little bit more restrictive for data access, and also care very much in Europe about compliant use regulations and the like. And if you see it more on the softer side, literacy and promotion of data value, you see that the digital natives are very much focusing on integrating learning and career paths, but also it's more in their DNA. It's a little bit easier, but still we see at the moment in Europe that there are lots of academies and also similar mechanisms actually being built by also the incumbents. So there's not so much difference between incumbents and the digital natives in that domain. Thank you very much. That was the, I think, the overview here. Oops.
So I think this was very insightful. And for audience, can you scan the QR code, and if you have any questions for the speaker, you can scan the QR code and ask a question. I will ask from your behalf. But Christian, before they type and while they are typing the questions, I have two important questions for you. So we talked about the data scientists and the real people, or not so data scientist people. So, and since you also organized the same symposium for Europe, what is the role of academy in the data and AI journey?
Yeah, actually, it's very interesting. If you look at the data literacy programs, we see that these are oftentimes a combination of courses that come from universities, or also online or offline or inside, sorry. And this is, I think, education obviously is something. I also very firmly believe in this industry research collaboration. So what we promoted a lot also through the symposium is use the academic resources that you have around you, because there are students doing master thesis, there's PhD students, there are a lot of possibilities to also collaborate on very concrete topics.
I think we have a good and important role to play as an academicians. The next question I had is, you talked about Airbnb like, and all the big firms. What about the small firms who cannot afford to have like a very big data scientist team or a data?
So I think the pillars, if you look at them, they can be adapted in a way. So for instance, broaden data access in a smaller company is easier because you don't have so many people and perhaps you don't need the infrastructure, but you still can maintain, I don't know, a wiki page or I don't know, something in some other tools actually to provide at least documentation around data. Same thing. So as we have seen, there's a lot of peer-to-peer learning also that is necessary. So perhaps you just implement differently. But I have seen, and I do executive education also a lot. And this is programs, I think, for upskilling people is also an important role of academia. So upskilling managers or the future chief data officers, as mentioned. But in that, I also see very small companies, and I don't see such a difference in terms of the general mechanisms. But of course, the investments will be different if you scale for 100,000 or 200,000 employees in some of the large companies, or you have just 100 or 5,000. Yeah, that's for sure.
That's a fair comment. So we have some questions from the audiences. So one. So I'll combine two questions in interest of time. So what is the best advice for incumbents who is planning to embark on AI journey? And what are the key challenges you see in data democratization?
The key challenges in data democratization, that's a good one. I think there are many challenges at different level, and probably that's another talk. But really, I think it's really you need to create a kind of a momentum and dynamism and or dynamics around data in order to be successful. If you just say, okay, this is basically something that is important, but we have many other priorities, it will not work. So you need to create a sense of urgency, right. And you cannot do that with data only, but you have to connect data to your business problems or to the business scenarios or use cases that offer most of the value. And this is why you also have this data value pillar. If you don't get that right, you do not motivate people.
Right. So next question is about definitions. So how do you govern interpretation of data across all data users so it should not differ from department to department in the interpretation of the data definitions?
Okay, that's also a good one. I mean, that's the data governance problem for a long time. So how do we actually align definitions in large organization, across departments, across sites? I think, the portals to a certain extent do nothing else than providing a single source of truth. Probably you should not say that anymore, but in a way, it's a way to somehow provide something that is easily accessible. And if you think about how do standards work, how does Wikipedia work? So it's basically you put up something that is shown as a reference, and then people can comment or they can perhaps improve it, but at least you have a starting point where people go and they find it. Perhaps that's also can solve some of the data governance problems. But I have also seen catalogs, for instance, tried the same who were not successful. So
right. So I was talking yesterday to one of the chief data scientists, and one of the things he said, oh, you're solving a problem. The first thing you need to have a clear data dictionary, which is agreed with all the departments. So yeah, I think that's a very interesting comment. The last question for you is, you talked about these companies' successes. And I know
failures probably also.
Yeah. So what are the issues, particularly issues, cultural or organizational? So I know it's a talk. It can be, you can give a complete talk on this topic.
Yeah, exactly.
But can you give us some summary of what are the cultural and organizational challenges they faced?
I mean, many of these challenges for these digital natives firms are around their growth, managing growth and managing the incoming new labor that takes jobs, that is very motivated to also work with data. So I think that's something perhaps a little bit like they scale. They're very also inclined to use tools. And in some other, but still it's organizational problems like you have also in your companies. And I think Andrew Burton-Jones actually made a good point. So a lot of the data topics are essentially organizational problems. So, and perhaps we have sometimes to think a little bit more about the organizational mechanisms to solve them. And of course it's culture, also mindset. But I think in the meantime, you have a lot of young people come in the organizations who are keen, who find that very interesting area to work with, and also also among the, let's say, older generations, I have the impression that a lot of passion is there. And I see that here and also at our CDOIQ event. So I think there's a lot of passion around it. And if you use it properly, you can create this momentum with these 5 pillars, perhaps in your data democratization initiatives.
Yeah. So that was, that was very interesting to know. So thank you so much, Christine, for a wonderful talk. And please join me in thanking the speaker. Thank you, Christine. Yeah. All right. So we come to almost near the end of this track. So our next speaker is Sachin Tonk, who is the Deputy CDO at GovTech. Hi, Sachin. And please join me in welcoming the speaker to the podium. And he's going to talk about interesting and one of the key talk of the town around innovative generative AI for advanced value creation. So Sachin, the floor is yours, and I'm looking forward to hear your thoughts.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think first of all, a great presentation, and it usually is a very hard task, after the interesting presentation to keep up that expectation. So I'll try my best. So good morning, all. I think, first of all, thanks for taking time out from the busy schedule. And I hope I will be able to give justice to your time. And I will be able to give some of the insights which you take in your organization or in your discussions with your management, your peers, and all those things. So I don't have tons of slides for you. The way I structure my presentation is I don't believe in too many slides. I rather believe in interaction, sharing some of the real perspective, the use cases, and I also like interaction from the audience as well. So I think the structure will be very simple, 4 to 5 slides maximum, and then followed by some discussion and some bringing the perspective. So where do I see? Oh, okay. So I think a little bit about myself. I joined GovTech. I don't know how many people know about GovTech. I joined GovTech 10 months back, and as a Deputy Chief Data Officer. And the whole idea is how do we actually enable our data and AI journey for this fantastic country under this Smart Nation initiative under Prime Minister's office. So as we know, we are in one of the best countries in the world. Everything is driven by data, AI. We have processes, we have technology, we have nice people who follow the rules and everything, but we wanted to take to the next level. So I have approximately 17, 18 years of experience, worked in different organizations. This is my first trial in the government sector. Hopefully I'll be able to succeed, but it's too early. I have done my MBA from NUS and Anderson School of Management, and I worked in different countries in Singapore, India, UK, US, and Middle East. So I bring a little bit of diversified perspective. The best way to reach out to me is through LinkedIn or through my website, but I always like interaction. So please feel free to connect offline also after the session. Generative AI, right? This is something which is actually a very hot topic, and last 6 months to 8 months, it has become hotter and hotter, right? So basically, a lot of people are talking about large language model, but if we step back, right, and if we look at the data and AI journey is all revolving around 2 words, which is operational efficiency. How do we make things better for us? Whether it is artificial intelligence making decisions like a human person, or do we make making our data speak, work for us, and help us to actually call the right actions, right? So basically, there was a lot of questions in the previous presentation. How do we democratize? How do we and there was a one very interesting question as well about how do we define a business glossary across divisions? Again, it's very well said by the presenter that it's a data governance problem. But at the same time, my perspective on this take is that business glossary and metadata management, data catalog is the first step towards any data or AI strategy. Until unless you know what your data assets are there in your organization, how do you define data assets? How do you interpret your data assets? until unless you have a clear understanding on the data quality metrics, you will not be able to have any kind of AI, data, monetization, democratization, any strategy. So for me, that problem is the basic problem to solve first before we even actually go into the next steps or value realization of the data journey. So coming back on generative AI, again, it is dealing with operational efficiency. How cool it will be that I come from a holiday and I have 100 emails and I have to respond, and I just type 2-3 keywords on each email, and the subject, the matter is typed, and I just need to review and press the send button. This is all about operational efficiency. How cool it will be for people in HR who are hiring day and night, who are putting job positions on the websites for data scientists, data analysts, business analysts, and they have to write a job description. How cool it will be that your generative AI, using your keywords, generate a paragraph about your job description, right? And then you review it and fine tune and quickly do it. You will be able to achieve a lot of operational efficiency. And nowadays it is very much possible with generative AI. So the whole idea about generative AI is how do you generate your content which can be used, and how can you actually generate the idea, whether it is text, speech, or images, which will help you to improve your processes. Now let's look how generative AI works. Again, not a very overcomplicated slide, but I wanted to keep it very simple, and I wanted to keep it very, very easy for you to understand the concept with minimum effort. So the whole idea is database. AI is a principle which learns, which takes historical data, which takes images. For example, if you want to identify whether it is this image is a cat or a dog, right? The AI engine will be able to give you a very accurate answer based on your database. That means thousands of pictures of cat, dogs will be analyzed by the engine, and then when you submit a new image, it will characterize, it will do probabilities, it will do the image recognitions, it will the characteristic recognitions, and then it will be able to give you an answer whether it is a cat or a dog. A very simple explanation, but again a very powerful way of applying into the use cases. So basically, forming a database is a very important principle in the generative AI. Then I was talking about some cool use cases about sending emails, job descriptions, which is all about your prompts. How accurate, how good prompts you are giving. For example, if I'm hiring a data scientist and I know that I need to have these 3 key skills, whether it is Python, R, data wrangling, all those kind of keywords, if I put into my prompt, using the databases and previous data science job profiles, it will be able to actually create a proper job description. Again, you might require a little bit of human intervention, but again, you can achieve operational efficiency. It is about spending 45 minutes versus spending 10 minutes. And at the same time, quantum can be achieved when you have multiple kind of, talent acquisition people putting up a job, not only for data scientists, for any other. So again, the quantum is very important. So inputting a prompt is the second step. And the third thing is you're generating the content. And how do you, the engine contains, for example, if you look at Bard, which is again a generative AI, right? For example, if I'm saying, hey, I am making a peanut sandwich, and then the Bard will be able to tell you that, okay, on peanut sandwich, you can add X number of toppings. There was a very fantastic use case and a research done on generative AI recently on the image side. The people, especially the people in the house, and sometimes you feel, I've been eating this kind of food every day, right? Can I try something new? And then through this image recognition, the fridge was open, and the model was able to identify the ingredients kept in the fridge, and it gave you 10 different recipes. How cool it is! Again, it's again a part of the generative AI, right? So basically, for example, all these kind of things can only happen when you have a strong database and you have clear use case what you are trying to achieve. Now let's look at the perspective on the reality, right? We understand the concept. We don't need to go into the background of technical for this discussion that how different models will come into the picture, because at the end of the day, if I'm in the restaurant, I don't care how the chef is making the dish. I'm really interested in whether I'm getting value for my money and I am getting my taste buds satisfied, right? So the whole idea about how the implementation of generative AI in your world, whether you are coming from manufacturing, whether you are coming from financial, whether you are coming from government sector, how do you implement this generative AI and how do you achieve operational efficiency for the organization? For example, one of the sections which a lot of coders and communities are using generative AI is to review their code, is to make comments on their code. If you see, I started my coding journey through SQL and Oracle databases. So every PL SQL code we used to do, sometime my team leader used to say, hey, this line is missing the comment. This doesn't explain me. You remember the line by line comments, and it's sometime for a coder, hey, come on, I've done the code, it's working perfectly. Why do I need to write comments, right? But at the same time, it's very important, because when the code goes to somebody else, can actually get your perspective, how you have written the code. People are using generative AI to improve the code quality by improving the commands, and some of the by connecting generative AI with GitHubs, new sample codes in different. For example, I have written a code in Python, but at the same time, I want to write a code similar in a different language. The syntax and all those things can be generated by generative AI. So again, a very powerful use case for developer community, from a data science professionals, how this can be used in a practical implementation. Now, from a perspective of data privacy and synthetic data, I don't know how many people have worked hands-on on data models and machine learning models, but my biggest challenge when it comes to artificial and model development is how the model can accurately work. When the model goes in the production, how it behaves the way it should be. I remember there was one classic example on the, when you book a cab, there was one of the models failed, and when a person was trying to get the ride for 5 kilometers, it was saying that your bill is $500. The model was not working as accurately because of few parameters. So the whole idea was that how can we test our models? So generative AI is also using to create synthetic data. Synthetic data is as good as a production data. It can actually generate millions and billions of different data sets, which you actually need for your model to go through. You want to have rainy day scenarios, you want to have exceptions, you want to make sure your model have all the parameters, because the more data parameters model will work on, the accuracy of the model will work. And how the companies like Google, Microsoft, and other companies are trying to say our model is better than Google, or Google model is better than OpenAI. How? It is all about the rich data set on which the model is trained. Now the marketing or the selling point is, hey, we have billions of data sets, X number of millions of parameters. We have trained this model. You can rely on the reliability and explainability of the model. This is the whole idea. Coming back on the sales part, generative AI is also used in sales functions. Everybody needs personalization now. And now it is possible because we have a lot of data. We can actually find out, hey, customer X and Y has very different perspective. Should I be sending the same email to customer X and customer Y? Absolutely not. Because we are here to delight our customer. Customer doesn't want just basic needs now. Now, every organization is trying to create value, competitive advantage using data and AI. Personalization is one of the things which is a bigger challenge for the organizations. Now, what they are doing is using generative AI. They are actually giving input about customer preferences, and based on that, the content is generated. Automated emails are generated, which will give that somebody has really understood the customer and somebody is actually manually writing an email, which connects to the user. A person who is a bank customer of 80 years old doesn't need that kind of information. A person who is like 20 years old, right? There's a huge difference. Customer support automation is again user experience, how you differentiate your customer, how do you actually make your content more reliable. Some of the use cases I just wanted to bring, which currently I am working on, how do we optimize our HR processes? Whenever a person applies in the organization, and I'm sure I have applied several times in my career, we don't even get response. It's a very, I would say, inhuman behavior that I took 1 hour to submit my application, put all my best effort, thinking through that I'm going to get a job, and I don't even get a response. How rude it can be. How, and just imagine when somebody is really looking for a job, it will not apply for one job. It will apply for at least 5 to 10 or 15, 20. I don't remember how much I applied, but yeah, there is not even an understanding that whether the application has reached to the right person. There is no understanding whether the person has reviewed it. There is no understanding, even it's a mismatch. I should know why it is a mismatch. What can I do to improve my skill to get to that job, right? Or maybe to the next. But again, generative AI is being used. So one of the current use cases which we are working on is on how do we operational efficiency in terms of job descriptions putting on the website. At the same time, if our candidates are not matching the profile, and if we have a better candidate of pool, how can we actually create a content to send to the candidate in a more human way, in a more connected way, that we really appreciate your effort, and hopefully we will be able to connect better in next opportunity, because this opportunity, we do find there are some gaps in the CV. This is again a very good use case from the HR perspective. So again, everything which looks beautiful, amazing, but comes with challenges. Again, data quality is always a challenge in any kind of data journey, whether you start with the basic data journey of a dashboard creation, even creation of Excel data, anything related to which is data, AI, data quality is the most important thing, because garbage in, garbage out. Then transparency is also one of the things which we are working on, and the generative AI is trying to explain. Legal and ethical issues is all about data privacy. PDPA is very active here. GDPR is a different thing. How we are making sure that we are not capturing the sensitive information or personal identifiable information to make our model work. How do we integrate? For me, integration is a more challenge into businesses. How do I integrate my generative AI into my businesses rather than technology? For me, technology challenge is not a challenge. My biggest challenge is that how I bring value to my business users. How do I integrate technology, data, AI into their business process? So one of my key KPIs in the organization is that how I am enabling my business users to embark on the journey of data and analytics. When they come into their day job in the morning, how they are using data and analytics, which helps them to define their next 6 hours in the day, how efficiently they can work. Uncertainty and cost is some of the parameters. Still too early for generative AI. A lot of things are going on, but I think there are a lot of exciting times. If we are able to identify some of the real use cases, we should be able to really achieve some of the things which we were not able to achieve last 5 or 6 years. Again, this is one of my last slides. We'll be very happy to interact with you guys, because I think I'm sure there'll be some interesting use cases, discussion, and the questions. It's a revolution for sure. I'm very excited about this whole idea and concept, right? But the main thing which I wanted to highlight here is that generative AI will not solve every problem. But at the same time, generative AI can be used as a stepping stone to achieve your operational efficiency. And we can actually reduce some of the burden from the processes. We can actually reduce some of the manual work from the people and can make jobs exciting for the people. For example, for talent acquisition person, he will be more interested in talking to the candidates rather than writing the job descriptions. Again, we are taking away that kind of like not interesting or what you call not sexy work which they are doing. We are just trying to bring more value addition, and so that people can get excitement about it. So this is my last slide. I'm thankful for you guys to be patiently listening. I hope I made some sense, but please connect me with offline and I'm happy to take some questions as well.
Very I stuff, because we know from outside that what are the things happening. So one of the so everyone in the audience, please use the QR code for asking question to the speaker. So by the time they ask questions, I have a couple of interesting questions for you. So
hope it's easy, huh?
I'm going to
just
very
be nice, and others also
easy
nice.
and gentle.
Hard ones you can talk to me offline. Yeah, it's okay.
So someone in the organization mentioned to me that like using generative AI is like mining gold. So you have to take care of tons of gold, tons of dirt, because before you get a little grams of gold.
Yeah.
So what they were mentioning is putting infrastructure in place to have the texts, as well as the images, as well as the emails, everything in database, then cleaning the data, and then putting and start capturing the useful data is extremely important before you get anything out of the generative AI. So what is your thought? Like, if an organization starts from zero today, how do they reach to a place when they are typing prompts and getting answers or insights?
I think it's a very practical question, and I think you are simply asking where to start.
Yeah.
Right. If I summarize the whole question. So
right.
Basically, for any initiative, and I'm sure everybody will have the same opinion, always start small. Right. The whole idea is through lot of generative AI models which are already available. Right. We should tap on existing models which are already trained on a lot of data set. And at the same time, some of the work which we are doing is we are also very selective on the use cases, and we are also trying to create the use cases where we have support to support that use case. We have a mature data. For example, HR use case, which I mentioned, right. We do have a lot of data set which is mature. When I say mature, that means from a quality perspective, right. From an understandability perspective, from a volume perspective. So we are not boiling the ocean. We are just focused in one or two use cases where we think our data is mature. So my suggestion would be small, and at the same time identify a use case where you have a data asset, a mature data asset. Yeah,
that's a very practical advice. You mentioned about HR. So I have one question, because I was observing another talk. Research talk. So US is putting a lot of now states are putting some restrictions or some laws in place where the HR team or the firm has to transparently tell if anyone is evaluated by AI for any job application, and on what parameters the AI is going to evaluate. Do you foresee anything coming in Singapore as well? If we're getting, let's say, I'm send a resume and some AI is evaluating my resume.
So basically, this is one of the use case which we are working currently also. So just to give you a little bit of background and make this question more interesting and relevant for the audience as well. One of the things every organization, and for every organization, the biggest asset is it's their people, right? So basically, we want to retain our people, and we want to capture new people who are talented. Now, especially in the Singapore market, and for me, and I'm sure everybody will echo my point, is to find the right talent is very difficult, because the pool size is small and the talented people is always eyed on. If I don't make my hiring process efficient and fast enough, then I'm going to lose to my competition, which I don't want, right? So before I joined the organization, one of the biggest challenge was that how we are not hiring fast, and some of the KPIs were we are taking couple of months even to actually reach to that level. Nobody's gonna wait for a couple of months to say, hey, somebody will come and knock his door with GovTech job, right? So the whole idea what we are doing is we are actually making our screening process based on AI based. Now it is not a rule based approach, which I personally feel, because a lot of organization has done a rule based approach, a keyword rule based approach, where okay, Python, R, project management, keywords. What we have done is we have actually gone to the next level where we have actually given hundreds of or thousands of data, different data points for our particular job role. For example, data scientist. We also look what kind of projects he has done. If there are some keywords even missing, we are able to identify. And if we are rejecting any candidate, the talent acquisition person is getting a clear insight what is the rationale and what is the reason. And that reason also allows to override the talent acquisition person that, okay, I will not take the recommendation of the model. I think the CV still holds a merit. We should have a conversation. So again, I would say there are a lot of things which we can do, and we are doing it as well.
That's a very interesting take. So one question is about how do you think about Singapore being a forward-looking country and very proactive. So what kind of lay out the guardrails to embrace generative AI while safeguarding the population? So what kind of guardrails are being put?
I think I can't disclose much because it's a little bit of confidential, and my bosses will be a little mad at me as well if I share. But in generally, we are very much focused on AI data, and if you look at the smart nation vision, and we are really looking forward to make all the policies which goes out to the citizens here and to the PRs and to the even to EPs, right? More data driven, AI centric, and we want to bring efficiency in the life of the people, right? So I think the whole idea, and at the same time, we are also guarding our citizens' data as well. So a lot of focus on data privacy and PDPA is also there.
So in interest of time, I'll take the last question, which is, I think many companies feel that whenever there is data, there is securities are in place. So how do you speed things up when there are many restrictions in place in the name of security?
Yeah, I think there's always a battle between security, governance, and agility of data, right? Basically, I would like everybody to have the data in the organization at their fingertips so that they can use it. And that's the power of data democratization, right? And if we are looking for data monetization, and if we want to achieve our AI realization, there should be a free flow of data. But at the same time, we cannot let data to be free flow, because if I share HR data with some of the people, right, it can be a sensitive information. Right. So I think security, data governance is very important, but at the same time, it goes back again on the data catalog, metadata management, and how do you define the business glossary? Right. And there has to be authority and approval of accessing the data based on the role, based on the use case, and based on the rationale and the reason why this person required this kind of data assets. Yeah. So definitely data security in some cases might slow down this data agility or the speed of using it. But at the end of the day, it is required.
Yeah. So I think with that question, I want to thank the speaker, and please join me in thanking the speaker. Thank you, Sachin. I think it was very insightful, and please feel free to interact with our speakers during the break time, which is now. So feel free to go ahead and get your caffeine. I have just one announcement to make, that at 11:15, we are going to assemble at the main auditorium for the closing session as well as the panel discussion. And that will be followed by lunch and networking. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you.